Emma clutched the leash tighter as the bustling streets of New York City swirled around her. The skyscrapers loomed like indifferent giants, their glass facades reflecting the chaos below. She had come here from a small farm in upstate New York, chasing a dream of showcasing her paintings in the galleries that lined the avenues. At 28, with a talent for capturing the quiet beauty of rural life on canvas, she thought the city would embrace her. Instead, it had swallowed her whole. Her savings were gone. Her mother's medical bills piled up back home. And now she wandered these unfamiliar blocks with only her loyal dog, a scruffy mutt named Buddy, by her side. He was the last piece of her old life, the one who had seen her through her father's abandonment years ago. Her stomach growled as she paused near a gleaming high-rise, the kind that housed the elite she could only read about. Buddy tugged at the leash, sniffing the air, his tail wagging despite their dire situation. That's when she noticed him, a man in a tailored suit stepping out of a sleek black car. Alexander, though she didn't know his name yet, was 38, a tech billionaire whose empire spanned the globe. His face was chiseled, his eyes a piercing blue that hid the storm within. He had built his fortune after losing his wife in a tragic accident 5 years ago, a loss that had turned him into a fortress of control and isolation. Work was his escape, his penthouse a sterile monument to success without warmth. Alexander's gaze locked on Buddy. The dog looked eerily like the one he had as a child, the companion that had pulled him through his mother's early death from cancer. A rare flicker of emotion crossed his face. He approached Emma, his voice smooth but commanding. "That's a fine dog. I'll give you $1 million for him. Right now." Emma blinked, her heart pounding. $1 million. It could pay off her mother's treatments, get her a real studio, change everything. But Buddy wasn't just a pet. He was her anchor in this unforgiving city. She looked into Alexander's eyes, seeing not just arrogance but a hidden desperation. "He's not for sale," she said softly, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Money can't buy loyalty like his. He's family, the kind that sticks around when everything else falls apart." Alexander froze. No one ever refused him. Her words cut through his armor, echoing his own buried pain. He was speechless, his jaw tightening as he stared at her. In that moment, something shifted. He saw her, not as a stranger, but as someone who understood loss without needing words. He recovered quickly, masking his surprise with a nod. "Fair enough, but if you're in need, perhaps we can discuss something else." He handed her a card. "Call me if you change your mind." As he walked away, Emma's words lingered, cracking the walls he had so carefully built. Days later, desperation forced her hand. Her mother's condition worsened, and the hospital bills threatened to bury them. Emma dialed the number, her fingers trembling. Alexander answered on the first ring, as if expecting her. They met in his office atop the high-rise, the city sprawling below like a conquered kingdom. The space was minimalist, glass walls, sleek furniture, a view that screamed power. "I need help," Emma admitted, her pride stinging. "My mother's sick, cancer. I can't lose her." Alexander leaned back, his eyes assessing. He had researched her after their encounter. Talented, artist, scraping by in a tiny apartment in Brooklyn. Something about her refusal had intrigued him. He needed a fiancée for an upcoming gala, a pretense to ward off board members questioning his stability after rumors of his isolation. "I have a proposal," he said, his voice low. "Pretend to be my fiancée for 6 months, attend events, play the part. In return, I'll cover all your mother's bills and give you $1 million for your art. But it's a contract, no emotions, no complications." Emma's breath caught. It was insane. But what choice did she have? She signed the papers, the ink feeling like a chain. Buddy watched from her feet, oblivious to the storm brewing. Their first public outing was a charity gala at a lavish ballroom in Manhattan. Emma wore a gown he had sent, silk that hugged her curves, making her feel exposed. Alexander's hand rested on her lower back, a touch that sent unwelcome sparks through her. Whispers followed them. Who's she? They look so in love. Society matron approached, smiling. You two are glowing. I can feel the connection from across the room. Emma forced a smile, leaning into him as per the script. But as they danced, his cologne, a mix of sandalwood and something sharper, filled her senses. His hand on her waist was firm, almost possessive. For a moment, the act blurred, her heart racing not from performance, but from the heat in his gaze. Back in his penthouse that night, the distance returned. The place was a fortress of glass and steel, empty despite its luxury. Separate suites, as stipulated. Emma retreated to her room, Buddy curling at her feet. She painted late into the night, capturing the city's lights on canvas, a way to reclaim herself. The tension built slowly. Alexander caught glimpses of her vulnerability, her calls to her mother, her quiet tears when she thought he wasn't looking. One evening, after a grueling day, Emma fell ill with a fever. She tried to hide it, but he found her shivering in the living room. Without a word, he canceled his meetings, wrapping her in a blanket. His hand brushed her forehead, cool against her heat. You don't have to do this alone, he murmured, his thumb stroking her temple in a gesture so tender it startled them both. Emma looked up, seeing cracks in his facade. Why are you doing this? Really? He hesitated, his jaw clenching. Because you remind me it's possible to feel again. But he pulled away, the moment shattered by his phone ringing. Their escapade came unexpectedly. A business trip to New Orleans, a city of charm and shadows from the list he frequented for deals. They shared a suite in a historic hotel, the air thick with jazz from the streets below. Over dinner, conversation turned personal. Tell me about your father, he asked, his voice softer. He left when I was 10, Emma said, her hands fidgeting. Said the farm life wasn't for him. I've been invisible ever since, working hard but never seen. Alexander's eyes darkened. I know that feeling. My mother died young. Cancer, like your mom's. I built all this to prove I didn't need anyone. His voice broke slightly, a rare vulnerability. Emma reached across the table, her fingers brushing his. The touch lingered, electric. They almost kissed then, his face inches from hers, breath mingling. But fear won. He pulled back, the silence heavy. Back in the suite, the line blurred further. Emma defended her boundaries when he tried to control her schedule. I'm not your property, Alexander. This is pretend, but I'm real. He respected it, though it pained him, his eyes softening with reluctant admiration. One night, after a heated argument about the contract's clauses that had left them both emotionally drained and on edge, the truth finally began to simmer beneath the surface, rising like steam from a pot about to boil over. This stopped being fake for me, Emma confessed, her voice trembling with the weight of unspoken feelings that had been building for weeks. You see me, not the struggling artist, but me, the person behind the brushstrokes and the uncertainties. Alexander's breath hitched sharply in his chest, a momentary pause that revealed the vulnerability he so rarely allowed to show. You terrify me, Emma, because you're real in a way nothing has been since. He trailed off, his words hanging in the air like an unfinished painting, but she knew exactly what he meant. The ghosts of his past that still haunted his guarded heart. The first real kiss happened in her modest Brooklyn apartment, a humble space with creaking wooden floors and mismatched furniture that stood in stark contrast to the opulent, sterile world of his high-rise penthouse and corporate empire. He had followed her there after she stormed out of the lavish event, her cheeks flushed with anger and frustration, driven by a surge of jealousy, when he saw a colleague flirting shamelessly with her amid the glittering crowd. Standing in her cozy space, surrounded by half-finished canvases stacked against the walls, and the familiar, comforting scent of oil paint, mingling with the faint aroma of fresh coffee from her tiny kitchen, he admitted, his voice low and laced with fear. "I'm scared of losing you." She pulled him close, her hands gently grasping the lapels of his tailored suit, their lips meeting slowly at first, then intensely, as if all the suppressed emotions were finally breaking free. His hands cupped her face with a tenderness that surprised even him, the kiss deepening with the pent-up longing that had been simmering between them for so long. Her skin tingled under his touch, a warm electricity spreading through her body, her thoughts racing wildly. This is real. It changes everything. The world around them faded into insignificance, the distant hum of city traffic outside her window dissolving into nothingness, leaving only the warmth of his body pressed against hers, the subtle taste of vulnerability on his lips that spoke of barriers crumbling. But secrets festered like hidden wounds, refusing to heal in the shadows. Alexander hadn't told her the full truth. The contract was also designed to secure a crucial merger for his company, using her presence and their fabricated relationship as unwitting leverage in the high-stakes negotiations. When a rival executive leaked the damning details at a tense board meeting, Emma overheard the conversation from the adjoining room, her heart pounding as the pieces fell into place. "You used me?" she accused, her face paling to a ghostly white, the betrayal hitting her like a sudden icy gust of wind. "It started that way," he defended, his voice raw and hoarse from the guilt that had been eating at him, his eyes pleading for understanding. "But what I feel is real, Emma. It's grown beyond any scheme." "How can I believe you?" she shot back, her words sharp and cutting, tears streaming down her cheeks in hot, unrelenting trails that blurred her vision. Everything was a lie. She left abruptly, grabbing her coat and scooping up Buddy, her loyal dog in tow, the door slamming behind her with a resounding thud that echoed like a finality, sealing the rift between them. The separation was pure agony, a relentless ache that permeated every moment of their days. Alexander buried himself in work, attending endless meetings and poring over reports late into the night. But the penthouse felt colder and emptier than ever before, its sleek marble surfaces reflecting his isolation like a mirror. He drank alone in the dim light of his study, nursing glasses of scotch while staring at her paintings that he had secretly bought and hung on his walls, each brushstroke a painful reminder of what he'd lost. Emma, meanwhile, threw herself into her art with a fervor born of desperation, spending hours in her studio submitting pieces to galleries across the city, but the void inside her gnawed relentlessly, a hollow emptiness that no amount of creativity could fill. Days turned to weeks in a blur of sleepless nights and forced routines. Both of them gradually realized, through the quiet torment of solitude, that the pain of absence far outweighed the fear of opening up completely. He found her at her studio, a small, dimly lit space tucked away in an old warehouse on the outskirts of the city, where she created her masterpieces amid the echoes of distant machinery and the faint scent of aged brick. "I was wrong," he said, his voice breaking with the raw emotion he could no longer contain, tears glistening in his eyes as he stood in the doorway. "I built walls because everyone I loved left me behind. My wife, the accident that took her so suddenly. I thought control would protect me from that kind of heartbreak again. But you melted them without even trying, with your honesty and your light. I love you, Emma, not for the act we put on, but for who you are, strong, kind, unbreakable in the face of everything life throws at you." She hesitated for a long moment, her heart warring between caution and longing, then stepped forward, closing the distance between them. "I love you too, but no more lies, no more hiding behind contracts or fears. They rebuilt their relationship slowly, brick by brick, with patience and care. Honesty became their new contract, an unspoken vow that guided every conversation and decision. Their first night together post-truth was gentle and unhurried, implied in the shared glances across the dinner table and the tender touches that lingered on arms and hands, gradually building the trust that had been shattered. Months later, Emma's exhibition opened in a prestigious gallery in the heart of Manhattan, the room buzzing with art enthusiasts and critics admiring her vibrant works. Her paintings sold out within hours, her talent finally recognized on merit alone, without any strings attached or favors pulled. Alexander stood in the crowd, blending in among the guests, his heart swelling with pride, not as her savior who had orchestrated opportunities, but as her true partner, supporting her from the sidelines. He had scaled back his work commitments, delegating more to his team and finding a fragile balance between his ambitions and their life together. A year on, in their shared home, a harmonious blend of his luxury finishes like polished granite counters and her warmth evident in colorful throws and personal artworks adorning the walls. They sat on the balcony overlooking the twinkling city lights. Buddy curled contentedly between them on the cushioned bench, Alexander's hand intertwined with hers, fingers lacing together in a comfortable, familiar grip, his smile genuine and free of the shadows that once clouded it. "You saved me from myself," he whispered, his voice soft against the evening breeze. "And you showed me I'm worthy," she replied, squeezing his hand gently, her eyes meeting his with unwavering affection. This was no performance, no scripted facade for the world to see. It was their life, real, imperfect, beautiful in all its raw authenticity.